Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is SportsIQ with Larry Smith.
Hey, and here we are. Welcome to the SportsIQ. I'm Larry Smith, joined by my producer, Tony. Hey, by the way, editor Josh, back in the house. We didn't give him any props earlier this week. We didn't recognize him. When you spend, 10 days on the beach, your appearance changes. So anyway, he says dude a lot. We noticed that, but we love him anyway. Hey, listen, great show coming to you today and rest of the week from Macon, Georgia. We traveled together, right, all the way through, all through this past year, and in Atlanta or Columbus, Georgia, or Columbus, Ohio, even Maui at one point. Well, today, this week in Macon, Georgia, for the Georgia High School Basketball Championships, I'm one of the play-by-play guys of those. So, by the way, if you're bored, just want to see some basketball, you can follow that GPB Sports. I think they do stream those live on YouTube. But anyway, that's that. We've got a great hour for you right here. Dennis Ackerman is going to join us now talking a little Raiders. We had this conversation before this latest news here. Producer Tony talking with him. It's still a good chat. That's on the way. Also, Jonathan Holmes, we've had him on before. The associate head coach of the Miami Redhawks, the team out of Ohio, 31-0 now. They completed this perfect season, and man, we cannot say enough about how hard it is to go through a season 31-0, undefeated, and yet here he is. They have done this. Travis Steele, what a job he has done in his fourth year there. As we mentioned before, after losing his job at Xavier, coming right around again. Never, ever, ever give up. Never say never. And so we're glad that Coach Holmes is going to join us here a bit later on. Let's get to some headlines right now. And, of course, the big story today is last night in the NBA, history made. Bam Adebayo, 83 points, second only all-time to Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points, which the anniversary of that, as you know, was just last week. So he passes Kobe Bryant's 81, which was second all-time, 20 of 43 from the field, 7 of 22 from three, 36 of 43 at the line. Are you kidding me? I saw someone say just the stamina you got to have to finish this off. His previous career high was 41 points. He topped that before halftime. He had 43 at the half, 67 through three, and again, 83 points, Bam Adebayo. The only player to score 70 points, by the way, while shooting less than 50% from the field. Just his teammates, in fact, it was funny. They were fouling Wizards players late in the game to extend the game and give him more chances to get more shots up to get more points. So it was pretty cool. By the way, as you imagine, Miami did win the game 150 to 127. Bam Adebayo. How cool is that? Detroit over the next couple of other highlights from Tuesday night. Detroit beating the Nets last night. Cade Cunningham, 21 points, 15 assists. Pistons now 46-18 overall. 3.5 games up on Boston because the Celtics get swept in their season series by San Antonio, losing on the road 125-116. Victor Wembanyama with 39 points and 11 rebounds. Tied a career high, by the way, with 8 3-pointers made. De'Aaron Cox also 25 points. 5 straight wins now for the Spurs. Derek White had 34 points for Boston. Jason Tatum, second game back from after that torn Achilles back in last May. And returns to play only 10 months later. He had 24 points in the loss. Luka Dončić with his 7th triple-double of the season, 31, 11, and 11. L.A. beating Minnesota 120-106 without LeBron James again. Austin Reaves, 31 points, 29 of those in the second half for the Lakers. NFL, there is now some talk that the league is looking into possibly some Thanksgiving Eve games. And why not? Listen, anywhere the NFL is going to put in some games, we're going to watch, right? So you could say, listen, we're going to look at a Sunday midnight game, and we will watch. We will set our alarms. We'll go take a nap, and we will watch. You're already going to have family in anyway for Thanksgiving Day. Why not make it Thanksgiving Eve? I mean, it's the NFL. They do what they do when they want to do it. So obviously it wouldn't be for 2026, but they're looking into it. Here's my guess. If they're looking into it, it's going to happen. It's probably going to be pretty real. Travis Kelce for the Chiefs announcing that he is signing a 1-year deal, so the tight end returns. How big is Travis Kelce? Even the Today Show, news shows like World News Tonight was about Travis Kelce signing for 1 year. So it is a big deal, not just to those of us in the sports world. The Raiders trade their quarterback, Geno Smith, to the New York Jets. So he returns back to a team where he once played before. The Raiders, of course, big story on them. That deal with the Ravens to send All-Pro Max Crosby to Baltimore falling through. ESPN reporting that Baltimore had some issues with some medical concerns in regards to Crosby. So they ship him back. Instead, it comes out this morning, they are signing up Bengals All-Pro defensive lineman Trey Hendrickson. So big move there. Hendrickson unhappy in Cincinnati, as most veterans usually end up being at some point. Did not play the bulk of this season. And even though he had the 1-year contract extension, he is now headed to the division rival there for the Ravens. Okay, let's go now to producer Tony, a conversation that he had with our next guest before we heard the story with Max Crosby. Tony?
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And obviously, the beginning part of the NFL new year is here officially. Of course, we've had the 48 hours where, basically it's like they throw open the window and it's the old Wild West and everybody does whatever they want. So why you don't just start the new year on that Monday, I have no idea, but that's for better minds than me to figure out. Luckily, we're here to talk some sense about the NFL and what's going on. Dennis Ackerman, old friend. We've known each other for longer than either one of us want to admit. He is the host of the Believe in Raiders podcast. Dennis, thanks so much for taking some time and joining us.
Tony, it's always great to be with you, my friend. Thanks so much for having me on.
Let's talk about the Raiders. You are the host of the Believe in Raiders podcast. The first thing that we've got to discuss is the Max Crosby trade. How do you think that panned out, not only for the team, but as well for Max and what he wanted to do with the rest of his career?
Well, let me start with the Raiders, and I thought they did a great job as getting as much as possible in return. Tony, they got 2 first-round picks from the Baltimore Ravens this year, which is in the 14th overall pick, and the Ravens' number 1 pick in 2027. Let's face it, that's probably going to be in the back end of the draft, right? So, okay, they got 2 number 1s. I wasn't sure they could get that big of an overhaul. I thought to myself, okay, you asked for a number 1 and maybe a starter, not a top-tier starter, but give me a starter. So that's potentially 2 starters I could have, because we know this roster is void of talent from top to bottom. Tony, this is a full-on rebuild with a look ahead to 2027 to see if maybe we can compete for a possible playoff spot. So look, I think the Raiders had done very well with what they got back in return from Max. And I think, look, at Max's time with the Raiders, I think it pretty much come to an end. And I think it all goes back to the final 2 games of the regular season in 2025. They told Max, we're going to shut you down for the final 2 games because we want to secure the number 1 overall pick. And we all know Max is the ultimate competitor, no matter what the Raiders' record has been, no matter what the Raiders' score has been in a game. And we know, Lord, they've been blown out many times during Max's career. He always gives 100%. Tony, I could make the case he might be the best all-around defensive end, because sometimes I think, man, does he play the run better than he rushes the passer? He had 10 sacks, and he didn't play the full season, and he led the league, I believe, or he was up there in tackles for loss. So he's a complete player. I know he's had some injuries. That's because the guy goes 100 miles an hour on every single play, no matter what the score is, no matter what the record is for the Raiders. And good by the Raiders for doing Max right, sending him to Baltimore, a perennial playoff contender. They did right by him. So look, I think it was a win-win situation for not only the Raiders, but for Max and the Ravens as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's nice to see Max get a chance to go to a playoff team, play in games that are going to have some more meaning come late November and into December and possibly into January. The AFC was kind of a cluster this year.
Yeah.
A lot of teams were down. Some new teams stepped into the breach, but we're going to find out, obviously, this coming season, if those teams were really as well constructed as they claim, or if they were a byproduct of the NFL scheduling machine, which tries to even everything out.
Yeah, Tony, I agree. Before we started the podcast, or before we started our interview, I said, Tony, the AFC is really not that good. I mean, you look at New England, they had 4 wins the previous year. They end up in the Super Bowl. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, obviously everything finally caught up to them. They win 6 games. When's Patrick Mahomes going to be back from the knee injury? We don't know that. Travis Kelce just said he's coming back, but Tony, he's in his 14th season. So what are the Chiefs going to be? The Chargers? Every year we want to believe in the Chargers. Yeah, they make the playoffs. One and done. Justin Herbert lays an egg in the playoffs. So, You're the Buffalo Bills. You said they might have missed their opportunity with Josh Allen, who out of the AFC North is all of a sudden Baltimore, which defense struggled a year ago. Now that they got Max, are they all of a sudden leapfrogging to the top of the AFC? We don't know. It's just the AFC is a crapshoot, man. I think it is wide open. It's there for anybody's taking, whoever wants to step up and grab hold of it.
Well, I think it all revolves around, how much money do you have to spend in free agency? Some of those teams like Buffalo, Kansas City don't have much. They've had to make deals. Look, Kansas City just had to unload McDuffie to the Rams because they were up against the salary cap and they could save money. You don't trade a McDuffie if there isn't a salary cap.
No, I agree. And what did the Rams give him? 4 years, $124 million? I believe, yeah. And it's the NFL's a hard cap. It's not like NBA where you got these luxury taxes. You hit this and then it's the luxury. No, my friend. The NFL is a hard cap. You have to be at this number, and there's no Larry Bird, right, where it lets you go over. The NFL is much, much different. So you're right. Kansas City has to unload to get under that. You see teams constantly restructuring these contracts to get under that hard cap, which it is. So we'll see what happens going forward with some of these other teams. And as you said, some of these deals that could start to Monday. And I still don't understand why we don't start free agency on Monday. What is the legal tampering, beg your pardon, the legal tampering for 2 days and then everything starts officially on Wednesday? I don't understand it, but it's the NFL.
Right. Just make it the Mondays. Make that forget the legal tampering. We're just going to start here. That's the first day of the new year, and have at it, boys, and let them go. Let's talk a little bit more about the Raiders. Made the deal, still have the first pick of the draft. Obviously, all the talk has been centering around Fernando Mendoza. Your opinion, are they still going to take that and try to set their quarterback of the future in place?
Yeah, because they're already going to release Geno Smith, who they traded for, a year ago from the Seahawks, and everybody thought, the Raiders got Geno. That's a tremendous upgrade. Seattle got Sam Darnold. That's a downgrade. Remember, everybody was saying that. Well, last time I checked, Seattle won the Super Bowl, and the Raiders have the first pick. So how'd that trade work out for you, Raiders? And now we're going to release Geno Smith after paying him $58 million for 1 year of work where he led the league in interceptions. So, but anyways, Tony, they're going to release Geno Smith. So that leaves basically Aiden O'Connell as the only quarterback on the roster. Kenny Pickett's a free agent. I can't see them bringing him back. All signs point to Fernando Mendoza. I think you can almost turn in the card right now, Tony, if you want to. But Raiders GM John Spytek said something interesting at the NFL Combine that really stood out to me. He's like, we don't want to rush young players and put too much pressure. Now, Tony, you and I are old enough to remember when quarterbacks were taken in the first round, they didn't play right away. Right. I mean, you remember Steve McNair sat for 2 years with Houston when they were the Houston Oilers, not the Tennessee Titans. Jeff Fisher sat him for 2 years. I think the last number one pick that did not start was Jared Goff with the Rams when they relocated to LA. I think it was Case Keenum. So I could see a situation. Now, the Raiders are going to have to add at least one more quarterback to that room besides Fernando Mendoza, whoever that might be. I don't know if it's a veteran who wants to come in, potentially be a stopgap, someone who can mentor Fernando Mendoza. But yeah, I think Mendoza is obviously and clearly the number one pick in this year's draft. I could see a situation, though, where Aiden O'Connell is potentially the starting quarterback at the beginning. Let me emphasize that. At the beginning of the season. Let Fernando sit. Let him soak in the NFL. Because, Tony, you and I both know it is night and day between college football and the NFL, especially the way these quarterbacks are being developed these days. It is not the same. So maybe you started Aiden O'Connell. Maybe whenever the Raiders' bye might be, depending on how the season goes, okay, then let's throw Fernando into the fire. Let's see what we have with the number one pick in this year's draft. But yeah, I think Mendoza's a foregone conclusion. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he would be the starter week one for the Silver and Black. I don't.
Yeah, I think sometimes you get your best results with quarterbacks letting them sit. For that season. Look, the Packers had Aaron Rodgers sit for 3 years before he became a starter. They had Jordan Love sit for 3 years before he became a starter. You can learn something. Even Patrick Mahomes didn't start the first year. The Chiefs still had Alex Smith. He sat and learned, even though the Chiefs knew in their heart that he was going to be the foundation of the future. I think sometimes you take these kids and throw them in there and say sink or swim, and sometimes they're just overwhelmed. And they don't have a chance.
Yeah, Tony, my co-host on the Believe in Raiders is former Raider cornerback Stanford Route. And he always says this, DA, he goes, in college, the quarterback throws to an open receiver. In the pros, you got to throw that receiver open. He goes, that is the biggest adjustment going from the college game to the NFL game. And that is a huge, huge leap when you're talking about those two things.
Absolutely. And I can almost see the Raiders, and then I'm not a Raiders fan, but let me just throw this out there as I'm watching what's happening going around us. We know that Tua is about to be released from Miami. Maybe take a shot on him, let him rehab his career on a 1-year deal or maybe a 2-year deal, and then you can hopefully peddle him and get back some draft capital because, look, he's getting paid from the Dolphins anyway. Their cap hit is going to be tremendous. It could be one of those, Russell Wilson kind of deals where he comes really cap friendly, maybe at $1.5 million, maybe $2 million. Let him try to rehab his career. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you're no worse for wear for at least trying it.
No, I agree, Tony. I mean, there's a lot of veterans out there, not right. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa, you just mentioned. Would the Dolphins pay him $54 million just to go away?
Yeah,
something like that.
They're taking a $99 million cap hit for the next 2 years.
Wow,
I mean, that's just
unbelievable.
Crazy.
I agree. So Kirk Cousins is out there. You got those two. Kyler Murray. Does somebody want to take a chance? Like I said, be a stopgap. Maybe, like you said, can they? I don't know, their reputation, enhance their reputation. Improve. Their reputation, whatever it might be. Because right now, you look at these guys like Kyler Murray. Okay, I mean, the reputation of him is he doesn't work hard enough off the field. He's the wonderful talent. Tua, I mean, has he hit his ceiling? I don't know. Tony's 6 years. Have you hit your ceiling? But maybe here's an opportunity. Let me showcase my stuff for 6-7 games, maybe 8 games. Because look at Malik Willis. What did he start? 2-3 games for the Packers? And now he could be making $20-30 million a year in free agency. So I think it's a very valid point. Like I said, and the Raiders, Tony, do have to add a quarterback. Because right now, Aiden O'Connell, he's the only one on that roster. And I said, obviously, they're going to take Mendoza, but that's still only 2 quarterbacks. You need at least one more for a camp quarterback, and then you need another one for the regular season. So you're looking to add at least 2 quarterbacks to that QB room.
Yeah, and I think it would be wise to add a veteran, like I said.
Yes.
Even just let him compete with Aiden O'Connell, let Fernando sit back, like you said, absorb, learn, see what the game is about. Your partner is right. You're throwing to windows.
Yes.
You are not throwing to a receiver. That receiver, the play is for you to release the ball and that receiver to get there by the time the ball gets there. Because if you throw to him at where he's at, then he ain't going to be there and a DB is going to be there.
And it's a pick six the other way.
Right, exactly. And that doesn't help nobody out.
No, it does not.
In the long run. What else do you see the Raiders trying to get done? Obviously, we've talked in this segment about it being probably a 2-year process.
Yes.
Things are not going to probably go well in 2026. You know that going in. It's a learning year. It's a growing year. What can they go out and accomplish to help make that pain a little bit less and at least be competitive in the NFL?
Okay, well, let's start with free agency. They got upwards of $100 million to spend. And that doesn't mean anything, Tony, because the Raiders have been bad for so long. Tony, they don't have a playoff win since 2002. 2 playoff appearances. And I'm tired of hearing how Vegas, no state income tax, all the entertainment. It doesn't matter if your franchise is unstable and can't win. I mean, the only constant with the Raiders is change. Since they relocated, numerous head coaches, numerous general managers. So they're probably going to have to overspend to get some of these guys to come to Sin City to play for the Silver and Black. Number one, Tony, A, B, C, and D is upgrade that offensive line because it was the worst in the NFL. I mean, I don't care who's the starting quarterback back there. No one's going to succeed with that offensive line. And Ashton Genty, I think he's a talent. I do. And I do think he will be a good running back in the NFL. But Tony, I believe on 50% of his carries, he was either hit behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. So if you can't run block and you can't pass block, that is where the significant improvement needs to start. You got to start in the trenches, either on the offensive line or the defensive line. In the Raiders' case, it's the offensive line, and that has got to be, like I said, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Tony, minimum, they need 3 new offensive linemen. I think Colton Miller, who's been injured the last couple of years, I still think he has something left in the tank at left tackle. You're okay there. Jackson Powers Johnson, I'm not sure if he's a center or a guard, but he's young enough where I think he's the other one you can hold on to and plug him in as one of those 2 positions, and you're okay there. But everything has got to start with revamping that porous offensive line.
Yeah, and they just need to look at the Chicago Bears last year. The Chicago Bears went out and invested in that line, gave Caleb Williams something to have in front of him so that he could actually have time to process what was happening on that field. You saw him improve by a tremendous leap into a solid, everyday, sometimes spectacular quarterback. So if you can do that without having to have Fernando Mendoza go through what Caleb Williams did in his first year, all the better, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And like I said, they have upwards of $100 million to spend in free agency. Tony, they have 10 picks in this year's draft. They have the 2 number ones, 1 in the second round, 1 in the third round. They have 3 picks in the fourth round. So they have the capital to work with in terms of draft stock and free agency. Now, I've already mentioned the free agency. You're going to have to probably overpay to get some guys. And then now the pressure is on John Spytek, the general manager. I've got to nail these draft picks, because the Raiders do not have a good history of late of hitting on any of their early round picks. If you go back to Max Crosby, 2019, he's a 4th round pick. Brock Bowers is the exception. I believe he's the 13th pick. I think he's one of the best tight ends. Last year, he was a little hampered by injuries, but they hit on him. I still think they hit on Ashton Genty. I do, but they cannot miss consistently like they have for the most part on these 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round picks.
Yeah, and I think that's really the story for any NFL team. You have got to be able to, at the very minimum, find starters in the first 3 rounds.
100%. Absolutely. Could not agree with you more.
Dennis Ackerman, host of the Believe in Raiders podcast. Really appreciate you taking some time, my friend. Always good to speak with you. Always good to see your face. Just kind of connect again after all these years. And, hopefully we'll be doing it some more. We'll get back with you, obviously, as we get closer to draft day, because we want to find out what the Raiders are thinking about after Fernando Mendoza and where they go from there.
Tony, it is always great to see you, my friend, talk with you, and it rekindles fond memories for sure, my friend. Going down memory lane 100%.
Absolutely. Dennis, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Dennis Ackerman, again, host of the Believe in Raiders podcast. We're going to take a quick time out for the Sports IQ. We'll be back after a break.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to the show. Let's get to some college basketball now. And no surprise, the news out of Syracuse this morning that the Orange have fired head coach Adrian Autry after 3 years. Just didn't get it done. Lost last night, 86-69 in the opening day of the ACC tournament to SMU. 6 straight losses to end the season, finishing 15-17 overall, 6-12 in the ACC. In the 3 years, never reached the postseason. He did win 20 games in year 1 and replacing the legend Jim Boeheim, who was there for 47 years. He spent the last several years as Boeheim's associate head coach. But again, as we've said before, it is so hard to replace a legend. And I think it's even harder in this day and age where you have a brand that has been one of the top brands in your sport for the past couple of decades, several decades. But it's a new world right now. And we're seeing some new names, some new programs rise to the top. And Syracuse, one of those, maybe right now, unfortunately, it's just not a destination job in terms of NIL money, which they did increase. But again, not working out there for Autry, unfortunately, as he bows out after 3 years there in Syracuse. More bids being secured for the NCAA tournament. Hofstra wins the CAA. About the freshman in a year of great freshman, another great performance. Preston Edmeade with 26 points to lead Hofstra. The Flying Dutchman, by the way, Speedy Claxton is the coach there in his 4th year. Remember, He played for this team back in the late 90s, led them to the NCAA tournament, and now they're back in the big dance for the first time since 2001 when Jay Wright, the dapper gent, was there before he went on to championship success at Villanova. Siena takes the Metro Atlantic, their first NCAA bid since 2010. In the Horizon, it'll be Wright State, 66-63 over Detroit Mercy. And the West Coast Conference, Gonzaga defeating Santa Clara, that still hopes, by the way, to get one of the final at-large bids. The Bulldogs, 21st WCC tourney title this century. And again, it will be their last as they are moving to the Pac-12 next year. Speaking of outstanding freshmen, A.J. DeMonsa is one of them. He'll be one of the top 3 picks at least in the NBA draft. Should he go in the draft? He is teasing maybe staying, but we've heard that before. We will see. 40 points in his game last night for BYU. That's a Big 12 tourney scoring record for freshmen, breaking the record set by Kevin Durant of Texas back in 2007. He had 37 points against Kansas back then. DeMonsa also 9 rebounds, 6 assists. BYU, the 10th seed in the Big 12 tourney, defeating Kansas State. By the way, 15 field goals as well. That's a Big 12 tourney record. 6th 35-point game this season. That's a Big 12 record for DeMonsa. BYU advancing to take on 7th seed West Virginia on Wednesday. Women's basketball now unrivaled. Their viewership is down 9% in year 2. The title game viewership was down 14% as well. Those numbers aren't good, but everything else is on the up. Big things ahead for them. Again, we've talked about before the investment round that they did last fall. They sold out an arena in Philly, set an arena record up there back in January, 21,000 plus. Another sellout for the playoff semifinals in Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago. So again, big things there. WNBA and its union reps meeting well past midnight, according to ESPN. Still no deal at the time as we're having this conversation right now. March 10th was the deadline issued in order for the 2026 season to play without delay. So we will see what happens. Meanwhile, Team USA is working out and preparation for the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. That includes one Caitlin Clark. She spent this past season, her sophomore season, for the Indiana Fever. It was derailed by injuries. Just never, I think she played maybe 10, 12 games, not very much. It was a tough year for her. Finally, World Baseball, the WBC and USA is in some trouble right now, getting shocked Tuesday night by Italy. 8-6 was that final score. All right, we'll talk a little more football coming up here. We've got a lot of things happening. Who are we talking to? We're talking basketball next. Jonathan Holmes, the associate head coach of the Miami Redhawks, 31-0, heading into the Mid-American Conference. A conversation with Coach Holmes is up next.
You're locked in to SportsIQ with Larry Smith.
Glad you're with us here, 11th of March, and coming to you from Macon, Georgia, part of the Georgia High School Basketball Championships. I'm glad to be with you on there. Producer Tony is with our next guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And, one of the fun parts about March is always watching not so much the ACC tournament, the SEC, they're always exciting, but watching some of these smaller conference tournament where you don't get to see them all that often. But when you do, the quality of basketball and the competitiveness is just outstanding. And, we here at SportsIQ, we've been following the Miami of Ohio Redhawks all season. We've been keeping tabs with them, and we're lucky enough to have associate head coach Jonathan Holmes with us again. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. And Coach, congratulations on that perfect regular season. What an accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, I've really enjoyed, here the last, whatever it's been, month and a half, being able to get on and talk with you guys. And it's, like I said, it's been a remarkable run. You get to the end of the regular season and you look up and you're 31-0. It's like you still kind of it's hard to believe, but like I said, it's been absolutely incredible. So
you guys had some excitement Friday night, arch rival Ohio University. That it's kind of like you guys are always, neck and neck with each other. Yeah. And they didn't go down easy, an overtime game, but what a contest. And everybody pulled through at the end.
Yeah, and again, the rivalry aspect of it. I mean, we knew it was an incredible environment. I mean, almost a full house, and it's kind of the way it's been for us, honestly, the last 2 months, home or away. The games have been, near sellouts every time, like I said, whether we've been at our place or on the road, and it's made for a really, you're stepping into a hostile environment, and then you add the rivalry piece to it. And we knew we were going to get their best shot, just like we have, honestly, throughout the season. Everybody that we've played, you feel like you're having to withstand their best efforts. And I think it was, if you watch the game, I think the fans were treated to a tremendous college basketball game, and obviously high intensity, tremendous shot making. And again, it was one of the better games of the year. I think throughout college basketball was, I don't know the exact number, but obviously tons of lead changes, and there were moments where it looked like we were going to break the game open, and they came back, and it looked like we were dead in the water, and then we were able to find a way. And it's kind of been the story of our group all year. I think we've won 8 one possession games, this season, and this group just continues to find different ways to win, and against all odds, So it's been pretty special. But yeah, it was a terrific game. Again, I had a lot of people reach out to me, and they're like, "Man, like just the quality of basketball, and the again, the intensity of the rivalry and all that kind of stuff." And it was kind of cool. It was I read somewhere it was the 218th meeting all time between Miami and Ohio. And it was the same number of points that were scored in the game. So 110 to 108. So kind of a little aside there, you got 218 points scored in the game, and it was the 218th meeting all time between the two schools, so pretty special.
Earlier this week, we had on Matt Brown of extrapoints.com. He has a newsletter, covers a lot of college sports. He does a lot of investigating journalism, a lot of different things. And he was pointing out your case for making the NCAA tournament no matter what happens in this tournament. And one of the things he pointed out was you guys made a heck of an effort to schedule Division I teams, but got turned down repeatedly. That's got to be tough for any mid-major team when you go out and try to schedule these games, knowing you might need a little extra bump in the ratings or the net or whatever for tournament time, but you keep getting turned down. Has it become tougher to schedule those kind of teams now with NIL and the changes and the super conferences and bigger conferences?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's obviously been a big narrative, surrounding our program, surrounding our team here the last few weeks. And it's true. And again, I've been doing scheduling for a long time. I handle scheduling for our team, and I've been doing it a long time, back to my days at William and Mary. And it was difficult back then. And it was like, if you were a mid-major that had a really good season, good luck scheduling for the next year. But what's changed over the course of probably the last decade has been obviously the emergence of the net. Everything is now analytically driven, even more so than it was, like I said, a decade ago. It used to be, strength of schedule, RPI, all that stuff was a big deal. And so it was easier as a good mid-major to get games because, the power conferences wanted to play teams like us because it really helped them on Selection Sunday. And now everybody is taught again. And I said this I've been asked this question a lot here the last, week or two. And I kind of say the same thing. Like, I get it. I understand why, a power conference team doesn't want to play us, because going into last year, we were of no value to them. They're told to play quad ones and quad fours, and we don't fall into either category. And so for them, it's like, it's a numbers game. They're trying to be strategic themselves to put themselves in the best position come March. And so I understand why they wouldn't want to play a team like us. And so, yeah, it was an incredibly difficult. It was the most difficult scheduling spring and summer that I've ever had. And, we held out basically until October to try to build the best schedule we could, and couldn't get anybody to play. And I probably got told no. I think it was between 75 and 85 different teams. And again, for a variety of reasons. And I'm not saying that those teams were scared to play Miami, but it was just a variety of reasons. Hey, you don't fit the profile that we're looking for. We're told we have to go play 275 plus in the net, and we're not that. Or, hey, we don't have that date. Or, hey, you guys have too many returning players from a 25-win team. You shoot too many threes. Like, there's a lot of different variables that go into building a schedule. And so for a variety of those reasons, like I said, it's not cookie cutter. But yeah, we're we were in a tough spot, and we put together the best schedule we could possibly put together. And again, there's a lot of things, like we have to get a certain number of home games for the MAC.
Right.
And so again, and I just mentioned those variables because it's not as just like, hey, you guys want to play? Let's play. There's a lot of things that go into building a schedule. And ironically, I'm in a better spot right now after 31-0 than I was a year ago, just because now we're not in that quad 3 range. So being a quad 3, you're kind of in scheduling no man's land. And so for us now, as we're on that, that quad 1, quad 2 range, we become a lot more attractive to the power conference teams. So like I said, ironically, people will be like, oh, I bet it's even harder now. Well, actually it's not, which is interesting. But again, it's all this algorithm and metrics, and sometimes you can be a victim of your own success, which that's kind of what happened to us last year.
We're speaking with associate head coach Jonathan Holmes of the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. And coach, a big week again this week, because now we get to the MAC tournament. Tell us a little bit about that MAC tournament, what you guys are looking for as you head into these games. I believe we talked earlier this week. Your first game's not till Thursday, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And the MAC tournament is up in Cleveland, and we play it where the where the Cavs play. So it's a great arena, great setup. And they only take 8 teams from our league. So it's the top 8 qualify for it. And, so we open up with UMass on Thursday morning. Obviously, we're the 1 seed, and we've played UMass twice. They're a really good team. Frank Martin, obviously a tremendous coach. And so we know we're going to get, we're going to open up in that quarterfinal game with a really tough matchup. And they're all tough. It's like you get to tournament time, and like I said, everybody's good. And like I said, all 8 of us had to qualify to make the MAC tournament. They don't take the whole league. But, our approach, honestly, is doesn't change. And I think one of the big strengths of our team and our program is that our approach game to game is the same. Because people are like, have you been able to keep these guys locked in and focused and block out all the noise and all that kind of stuff for 31 games? It's because our process doesn't change. We approach every game, whether it was one of our non-Division I games that we played during the year, or whether it's, to win a MAC championship. Our approach is the exact same. And that's how we'll go into this week, preparing for Cleveland. Last year we were in the championship game and lost to Akron at the buzzer. And so we've certainly had success in Cleveland. And, I think everybody this time of year, you've got a few extra days to prepare here, because obviously we just played on Friday of last week. And then we've got, 5 or 6 days to kind of get healthy, prepare. And it's like those teams that can find just a little bit of an edge in those 4 or 5 days, because you're not gonna make wholesale changes in March. It's like, can you find a way to get get 1 or 2 possessions better on offense, 1 or 2 possessions better on defense? How can we learn from that game at Ohio and then apply it on, Thursday morning against UMass, and get ready for an exciting weekend in Cleveland?
Yeah, and those weekends will be interesting. Conference tournaments are always crazy. We've seen it already, where Northern Iowa has a 6 seed, won the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. So obviously they're going. Whoever was that 1 seed, their season's over. You guys are the 1 seed. There have been some pundits out there, and I won't mention names, who have said, "Oh, if they don't win their tournament, they don't belong." Personally, we here at SportsIQ disagree with that wholeheartedly. You've done something only a handful of teams have done in the last 50 years. You went undefeated in the regular season. That should be applauded. That should be rewarded. You have earned your spot in that dance.
No, I appreciate it. I think at the end of the day, the total body of work speaks for itself. Like you said, 31-0 is nothing short of remarkable. I think saw the other day, I think we're maybe the 21st team in college basketball history to ever go undefeated in the regular season. So you're talking about something historic. And at the end of the day, I'm not the one that makes those decisions, and the committee will kind of do their best to kind of assess our situation. But the great thing, and we've looked at it like this the whole way, is we were in a unique position to be able to kind of control our own destiny. It's like, if you just continue to win, it's like at the end of the day, like that's kind of what our resume and our profile reflects. Like everybody wanted to pick us apart, a month ago. Well, hey, they're 20-0 or 22. And it's like, well, you just stay the course and you continue to win. And now here we are at 31-0, and you control what you can control. Obviously, we're not the ones that make the decision on where we end up going and all that kind of stuff. But again, I think 31-0 really speaks for itself, but we still have our approach is this, like we want to win a MAC tournament championship too. At the end of the day, we won the regular season outright at 18-0. And now our next goal, all right, we checked one goal off. And so now the next step is let's go to Cleveland and win a MAC tournament championship and leave no doubt. And then that's only going to put us in a better situation, seeding wise, heading into the NCAA tournament. But again, yeah, I think overall, man, 31-0 is pretty loud, so we'll just kind of see where that takes us on Sunday and go from there.
31-0 is a tremendous accomplishment. Any team, especially in modern college basketball, with the travel, with everything you guys got to go through and to, jump through the hoops and to get the schedules and to, get to these plays and keep everybody healthy, which is never a given during the course of a season.
No. And I think that's one of the things that's really been special about our team is that, we at the time, we arguably lost our best player in December. Kid Evan Ipsaro was our starting point guard playing, like a first team all-league guy, and he tore his ACL in our first conference game. And so, we've done this without one of our best guys. And so what you've seen is that we've had other guys emerge. Our young guys have gotten better and better. We had 2 freshmen the other night against Ohio come in and play tremendously. And, we've been battling that injury bug here and there, and we've had guys sick. We've had, games where we've been down. Like, I think that's what has made our story that much more, interesting, is that it hasn't been smooth sailing. We've had to overcome a lot. Like I said earlier, we've won a bunch of 1-possession games. It's been great theater, at the end of the day. And so I think I would hope we're kind of one of those teams that's easy to root for because we do have a really good team. Our guys play together. We share the ball. We play really hard. I think if you watch us, that connectivity is something that really jumps off the page, So again, like you said, in this day and age, man, you've got to weather a lot. No season is just easy all the way through. It's not like we've been, kind of blasting everybody by 25 and have had no close games. We've had to overcome a lot. And like I said, I think it's what makes our story, that much more, special and exciting.
Well, your theater on Friday nights has just been tremendous. You're sitting there, and I'm a huge college basketball fan, and I have sat there and said, okay, the Big Ten game is this, but Miami of Ohio is playing over here. I'm going to go watch that because that is great theater. They're playing great basketball. It's like you want to root for that underdog mentality. You want to root for that little guy who's, taking the next step, the big step. And just watching the progression of this season for the last 2 months has just been really, really positive and uplifting. And that's something I hope we can see considered through the rest of this weekend. I'll be watching at 11 a.m. on Thursday. I'm going to be jumping back and forth between my home office and my TV. So you've got one person rooting for you here in South Georgia. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate it. I think, and again, to your point, though, I think the byproduct of this is that, all of our games, or a lot of these games, have been put on national TV. And I think the what people around the country that maybe didn't know a whole lot about, MAC basketball have been able to see just the quality of play and how good it is. I mean, again, like I said, the country on Friday was treated to a heck of a college basketball game. Again, Ohio played terrific. We were terrific. Like you said, the intensity of the rivalry, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, if you didn't know anything about our team or about the MAC, and you just sat down and said, "Hey, man, I want to watch this college basketball game," you were treated to a heck of a game, and I think that has really benefited our conference and just the exposure that we've gotten as a program and as a university. It's been really neat, really special.
It has been a really special season, and I've loved watching it the whole way. We'll continue to watch. Coach Jonathan Holmes, Associate Head Coach, Miami Redhawks, thank you so much for taking some time and speaking with our listeners. Good luck to you and the program. We'll see you a week from Thursday or Friday.
Hopefully. Sounds good to me.
Sounds good?
To me. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Take care, Coach.
Yeah, take care.
We're going to take a quick time out here on SportsIQ, but we will be right back after this.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
By the way, we do want to stop for a moment and pat ourselves on the back for the 1-year anniversary this week that we've done this Monday through Friday version of the show. Producer Tony, man, congrats. It's been a lot of fun. This year has gone by really fast.
It really has. And it has been a lot of fun. We've gotten to talk to some very interesting people I didn't, know we would be able to talk to, but people like Pete Babcock, like the guy who starred in the movie Hoosiers, all of the folks that we've had on, Coach Holmes here, Al Bernstein.
Yeah.
We've just had,
George Foreman.
It's just been fun listening to people tell stories and having interesting conversations with folks, discussing a wide variety. I mean, we've covered everything from women's softball to college football to pro football to, everything in between. It's been a lot. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a blast. And, it's really, I think we would agree that while we've evolved in this past year, we've learned some things. We're doing exactly what we set out to do, and that's one thing. The feedback we're getting back from everyone listening is that it's good, smart talk, not because of us, but because of our guests. It's great conversation, and we talk about it too. End of each day, we usually learn something from our guests, and that's something I think that's credible too. One of those great guests, by the way, we've got coming up on Friday. He's a repeat guest, Michael Leroy. He won't call himself an NIL expert, but those around the game, they say he's an expert. He certainly is a very learned student of this game. And he was saying that, I had this conversation. It's going to run on Friday. So definitely make sure you catch Friday's shows. But Tony, it's one of those things. I was very skeptical that the House rules that went into play on July 1 of last year would change the game. And I think I'm correct with that. And we'll get Michael's take. It's just another piece of this. There's so many kids that enter the portal. I mean, thousands of young adults every year looking for a bag or a better situation. We hear about the kids that do land somewhere and do get some money, but more often than not, it's not a better situation that they wind up in once they make this jump.
Yeah, and for some of them, it may be the end of their college sports career, right? Yeah. I mean, if they can't find a place to play, that means they're going to have to pay to go to college, which means they're probably going home to a smaller school, maybe to a community college, something like that. And some of them may just decide to enter the workforce and never finish their college degree. And I think that's kind of a shame. If that's, where we're headed, there's a bunch of people who are making money, and that's great. All for that, because there's billions pouring into college sports. Yeah. The athletes who play the game deserve part of that money, period, end of story. But the fact that we don't have a handle on it is not making it good for anybody. And I don't think the little summit that they held this past week up in D.C. is going to help anything at all. Again, you can't have somebody try to rule by decree, even in the college sports world.
It doesn't work. And I think what it comes down to is that this has been a problem now for decades. I mean, we know back in the day, 50s, 60s, wherever, they had some pocket change they were allowed to be given. And that went away. We know there are payments under the table. I mean, it's been documented. I go back to the most recent one, Rex Chapman, in his book that he wrote a couple of years ago, saying that, look, I did take a pay cut to leave Kentucky after my sophomore year and go pro. I made less money as a pro with the Charlotte Hornets as a rookie than I did in my sophomore year at Kentucky. Wink, wink, because that's how much money was under the table. And I'm not trying to rip on Rex or Kentucky. That's just the most recent example. This is a situation that very, very smart people who've spent their careers in this have not been able to figure out. You're not going to solve it in an afternoon, to your point. I mean, and that's not busting anybody. That's just reality.
Right. You just can't solve it in an afternoon. It's a very complex problem. And the other thing is, look, the NCAA has had 12 or 15 years to figure this out.
Yeah.
They knew it was coming. They knew all along they were going to lose the O'Bannon case. Lawyers were telling them, you have no case.
Yeah.
None. Zip. Zero. Find a settlement. Find a way. They never did. They put their head in the sand and said, well, we're the NCAA and everybody's got to work through us. And the schools wind up going, yeah, we really don't. So that's where we're at this point. Look, you've opened Pandora's box. When it opens, there's just no way to close it.
Yeah. So now the question is, the horse is out of the barn. How do you tame him? Because he ain't going back in. We know that much. That's going to be up on Friday. Conversation with Michael Leroy, another in a series of really, really great conversations that we have for you today here on Sports IQ. Okay, our moment of awe is up next.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Okay, time now for a moment of awe today. And we know what Branch Rickey and Jackie Robinson did in breaking the Major League Baseball color barrier, but John McGraw and Charlie Grant almost pulled it off 46 years earlier. On this day in 1901, McGraw, the manager of the Baltimore Orioles, the upstart American League, signed the Negro League player Grant, insisting that the light-skinned second baseman was actually a Cherokee named Tucahoma. It almost worked until Chicago White Sox owner Charles Comiskey got wind and threatened to insist that both men be banned for life from the game if Grant played in one game for the O's. Well, McGraw gave in, released Grant, who had played several more years in the Negro Leagues, dying 15 years before Robinson made history with the Brooklyn Dodgers. It happened on this day. He was signed, was almost there. Didn't happen. That's our moment of awe. Hey, thanks so much to our guests stopping by. It's been, just a fantastic day. Dennis Ackerman, Jonathan Holmes, we appreciate you as always. Sports IQ with Larry Smith. Glad you're here with us. Let's make it a great Wednesday. I'm off and running now to go do play-by-play. I'll talk to you tomorrow here on the show on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at SportsIQ LS. We'll see you next time.